So I think I've I've said it before, and I've praised the what is called the Bylines Network um, as a very very good overall, um, not only as a good source for news from the UK, but also for regional news as well. Because the Bylines Network is the main Bylines Times, and then they have their own individual regional ones. Very often you've heard me go over articles from the Yorkshire bylines. Well, um, today we're going to go over one from the Sussex bylines because, again, local news over really not just the past 10 years, probably going forward, has died really, really significantly. And lots of areas that used to have local newspapers no longer have one, indeed. Um, and lots of local newspapers, even my own Barnsley Chronicle, has been really struggling in recent years just to stay afloat. Luckily, the family that owns it doesn't just invest just in the Barnsley Chronicle. They've got, shall we say, multiple fingers in many pies. But nevertheless, the size of the team that runs the Barnsley Chronicle for over the years has shrunk drastically from what it used to be in the noughties and even in the 90s, probably when it had its heyday, so to say. So, now we're going to go over the article from the Sussex Bylines about what's going on for Brexit for them. And I think, once again, it's very good that this is local reporting by a local person and you get to see exactly what the effects of Brexit are being on in just Sussex. So, like I say, go check them out. They're very good. But before you do that and before we jump into the article, please do remember to hit that like and share button. Also down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link. And thank you very much to those people who do support me. So, this, as we said, comes from the Sussex Bylines, and the title is Now for the Real Face of Brexit, and It's Not Pretty. So, Brexit is sorted, isn't it? Not so fast. COVID-19 is currently rightly the nation's number one concern, but those who think that we have now safely put Brexit behind us are mistaken. The real struggle over what sort of Britain will emerge from leaving the EU has only just begun. Arguments over the last few years have only been about establishing the rules to get the process of Brexit underway. It is now only that we're beginning to see the government introducing major changes in the way of British society and its economy and how the economy operates. And we shouldn't be surprised at the direction of these changes. We've had plenty of warnings. And again, I echo that sentiment. We have been telling you on this channel so many times, even during the referendum, we were warning you, if you voted to leave, you would leave the Britain in the hands of a very right-wing government. And not only that, but even more hard right-wing people since then have taken over. We went from David Cameron's very such a, shall we say, a very centrist right party that he was at the time, to Theresa May taking it slightly more to the right, and then Boris Johnson just grabbing the party with his big meaty fist and just pulling it far right. Arguably, this party now is even more far right than Margaret Thatcher's party were in the 80s. And if you didn't like the Tory party in the 80s, well, prepare to have that hate reignited, probably with an absolute passion. So, anyway, it continues. Right-wing Tories, now firmly in charge, have been consistently clear about their objectives, and which are very different from those of the more moderate elements in their party. We've said before, I think we could see another potential civil war in the Tory party. I think that is very likely, but we'll have to see. They want to break away from the social market model on which the EU is based in order to establish a deregulated economy with minimal government regulation and low taxation. The aim is to re-establish the agenda of the 1980s and further undermine what is left of the welfare state in order in the words of the former Chancellor Nigel Lawson, to bring about the completion of Thatcherism. And their aims are set out as such in books such as The Sovereign Individual. We've talked about that before, written by Jacob Rees-Mogg's father. And of course, Britannia Unchained, whose authors include several prominent members of the current government. And like I say, we've been over Britannia Unchained many, many times before. And like I say, I am at the point now where will have to probably go and get that book. But like I say, there are plenty of, shall we say, sizable extracts and people who have gone over it in detail from the past, and we've gone over some of those articles themselves. And like I say, it's generally just not good. Heck, you even just have to read the Amazon reviews of Britannia Unchained, and again, doesn't get very good reviews. So, this is not something for those of us who believe in the need for a welfare state, and fair wages and working conditions can ignore. The intention of true believers in Brexit is to mount an assault on the economic and social basis of our economy, and to do so in a way that will make any attempt to roll back those changes extremely difficult indeed. And the signs are already emerging. The Financial Times recently reported on the plans being drawn up by the government and the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills to change employment conditions. A select group of business leaders has been sought out on the proposals. The initial target is the Working Time Directive, with the aim of removing provisions for a minimum 48-hour work week, changing agreements for rest breaks at work, and taking out overtime pay when calculating holiday pay entitlements, and the weakening of regulations to record the time spent by employees at work. And the government will dress this up as improving flexibility for the benefit of both employers and employees. But in practice, the effects would just be one way. Similarly, the government has moved to remove restrictions on the use of necticides, despite an EU-wide ban. These pesticides are believed to have damaging effects on pollinating insects such as bees. And not all of these changes will be immediately obvious, but the ground is already being prepared. In what may be the greatest extension of the royal prerogative since King Charles I set out on the path that led to the English Civil War, the government has ensured that many new provisions will be introduced by ministers without having to face the scrutiny of parliamentary debate. The process has already begun, with Jacob Rees-Mogg closing down the Brexit Select Committee before it had time to consider the Prime Minister Johnson's deal. But we can expect far more of the same in the future. Trade deals in particular will escape the scrutiny of their hidden details and in the small print, and ignored by much of our mainstream media. To ensure that this is the case, MPs, on the instructions of Boris Johnson, have rejected the safeguards in the Lords' amendment designed to protect the NHS from future trade deals. Ken, we've already said that many times before. And to ensure that such deals do not lead to lower food standards. Some protections will be afforded by the EU as a result of the trade deal provisions. They aim to prevent the UK from undermining the level playing field. However, these are cumbersome and only likely to be activated if the EU perceives a persistent and serious threat to their own industries. Battered and demoralised as we are, we must find the strength to confront the real purpose of Brexit. At stake are the hard-won working conditions and environmental, and even our NHS, whose value to us is immeasurable. And but to the US drug companies, with their eyes on profiting from a future trade deal, their values in the millions of dollars. And I've said this, we've got to prepare for huge fights, I mean massive. I'm talking, we have to go out and protest. We have to go out and literally write to our MPs. Even if your MP is a Conservative, write to them, because this will set a fire underneath them. You saw this during the initial Marcus Rushford period and also the examination crisis. People wrote to their Conservative MPs in droves, especially in the north, and they got very uncomfortable about the amount of pushback they were receiving from this. So it is important, and I always advocate for this. Always write to your MP, even if they're not of the party that you would traditionally vote for. Write to them, engage with them, and hey, very often they have surgeries, and I was it 2 years ago. I had a talk with Dan Jarvis of all people, not in a surgery situation, but I asked him how many people you do come to your MP surgeries that he has. And he says, honestly, it's not a lot. It's barely a handful, but he still does it, and he still sits there, honestly, in a room by himself, almost for a full day, and one person will turn up. And he says that can sometimes be a record if 2 people turn up in a day. But and again, go see them. Go tell them that you're not pleased with this, and that you will intend to see them, removed with someone who will take care of your children and make sure that they are put first. Because we are going to have fights for the next 4 years that are really going to show you the absolute lunatics that have been put in charge of the asylum. And one of the things I've said that is going to be used against the Brexit supporters, who at one time were all fully in favour of Brexit, but then all of a sudden, when Brexit is being used as a justification, as it is here, to get rid of working protections, holiday pays, and things like that, it's going to be horrific. And it's going to affect so many people. Labour will have an upper hand on this, but as they said before, the whole idea is to complete Thatcherism and then make it almost impossible to roll those changes back. And if we ever got to that point, the only way to restore much of our, those laws and those regulations would be actually to rejoin the EU. But, there we go. Hopefully, if Brexiteers believe, or Brexit supporters believe in all these things that are being taken away, and they don't like them being taken away, then I urge you, go and write to your MP and say, I don't like the fact that you're going to take these away, because these are going to affect the working class people, a lot of whom were in support of Brexit for the pure facts of they thought and were told by the Brexiteers that voting for Brexit would make their lives somehow better. They're actively now going to make it worse. And the justification for all these changes will be Brexit. And we have got to fight like we have never fought before. Especially with the majority that the Tories have. Because the Tories, like I say, don't need anyone else's support. They could just walk in to Parliament with this bill and decide that the Working Time Directive, gone like that tomorrow. They could do it. Nothing could stop them. Which is such the worry that we have at the moment. And we will continue to have that until the next election. And we have got very dark and hard times ahead of us. But we have to have faith. We have to keep up the fight. And even if they succeed, we have to keep on fighting back. Because, these things are important. And if we lose them and we don't fight to keep them, then in a way we almost deserve to lose them. And, I do hope there are many Brexiteer supporters out there who are watching this and are thinking, getting rid of the Working Time Directive won't affect me. Yes, it will. And I urge you, go and look up what is actually covered by this. And as I've said many times before, if you are really worried about this, one of the best ways to fight back is to go and join a union. And yes, there is a union for you out there somewhere. It might take a bit of work to find out what it is, but go and join a union. And encourage your colleagues, whether your workplace as well, to go join a union as well, because these are the organisations that are going to help protect you, possibly in the years to come, and these are the organisations that are also going to be able to organise to fight back against the Tory government. So, as always, thanks for watching. Please do remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link. And as always, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.